Hashem. Welcome everybody. Today's daf is Masechta Sanhedrin Daf Ayin Tes 79, and we're going to start straight from the Mishnah. Mishnah on Daf Ayin Ches Amud Beis. Okay, here we go. Mishnah on Daf Ayin Ches Amud Beis. We're discussing the inyan of murder. In order to be chayav for murder, so the first thing you have to know is that there is a machloikis between Chachamim and Reb Shimon, which we're going to learn about, that if a person intends to kill Reuven, his intention is to kill Reuven and ends up killing Shimon, so then Chachamim say you still chayev because you intend to kill a human being. However, Reb Shimon says you're potter, and that's called niskaven lahare gezeh v'hare gezeh. Since you didn't kill the person you intended to kill, even though you killed another Jew, you're not chayiv, you're not liable for the death penalty. However, now we can begin the Mishnah. Even the Chachamim who say that you're chayiv if you end up killing the wrong person, but since you intend to kill a human being, so the Mishnah says, niskaven lahareg es behema. If a man had intentions to kill only an animal, right? V'harag es ha'adam, and then he killed a human being. He killed a Jew. So therefore, by intending to kill an animal, so you weren't intending to do a chiyuv misa, or because killing an animal there's no you're not a retzeach. Legoy, if you now here you may not understand this, but according to the Torah, killing a guy, you're not considered a retzeach. You're not chayiv misa. So man tried to kill a guy. V'harag es Yisrael ended up killing another Jew. So, in another case, Linefolim, he wanted to kill a baby that was born premature after 8 months. And in the time of the Mishnah, a baby born after 8 months was for sure going to die within the first 30 days. So he was going to kill somebody that is dead anyway. V'harag es ben kayam, and then killed a normal baby. So in all these instances, you're potter. You're going to be potter. Even the Chachamim will hold that you're potter because your intention was not to kill somebody that you would be chayiv misa for. So now the Mishnah goes on that there are two things in order to be mechayiv you misa, a retzeach misa. He has to have intention to kill, and the thing that he did could have killed. Okay, obviously, if you throw a tiny pebble at somebody, even if you intended to kill him, but the thing that you threw at him was something that could not kill. So listen what the Mishnah says. His intention was to kill somebody by throwing, let's say, a stone on his hip. He had a small stone, and that didn't have enough strength to kill the person if it would have hit his hip. The halchala ali boy, but he missed. The stone slipped out of his hand and hit the other guy in the heart. And for the heart, even a little stone hitting somebody in the heart would have killed him if it hits his heart, and it actually did. V'meis, and you died. Potter, you're exempt from Retzeach. Why? Because the action that you did was not an action. Your intention was not to kill. Your intention was not to kill, because you intended to throw this little stone on the ribs, which wasn't on his hip, and it wasn't able to kill. Niskaven lahakoisa aliboy. You intended to kill him on his heart. Now the Mishnah says, V'hoyaba, we go to Ayin Testament Aleph, V'hoyaba kedei lahamas aliboy. You had enough of a stone that if it would have hit his heart, and he would have died. V'holchola al masnav, and went and it hit his ribs. The small stone wouldn't have killed him just because hitting his hip. V'meis, but the person ended up dying. So this small stone hit the person on his hip, and he died for some unexplained reason. Potter, because again, the object that you did, you intended to kill somebody, but your stone wasn't your action, because it hit the rib. I keep saying rib. It hit his hip. It wouldn't have killed him, but he died anyway. It must have been for another reason he died. He threw a stone at an adult, and it wasn't enough to kill the adult. But at the end, the stone slipped out of his hand and hit a child. And it had enough to kill the katan, and the katan died. So then, potter, you're still potter, because your intention was not to kill, even though you did an action that could kill. You intended to hit a small child. And you threw a stone that would have killed the katan. But you ended up throwing it at an adult, and this would not have killed the adult, but for some reason, the adult died. So it could be that the adult died because of a heart failure or something. Nothing to do with the stone that the Ritzayach threw at him. Potter, therefore, the person that threw the stone is exempt, because the action, even though he wanted to kill, but his action turned out to be something that would have not have killed, and the person died for other causes. Now the Mishnah says, "Aval niskavein lahakis al mosnav v'hoy by kidei lahamas al mosnav." If a person threw a big stone at a person's hip, and it would have hit him in the hip and would have killed him, but it ended up going on his heart, the mace, and the person died, of course, chayiv. Chayiv. First of all, your intention was to kill, and second of all, the action was an action that could kill. Niskavein lahakis is a godel. You wanted to kill the older person, and you threw a stone that would have killed an adult. But you ended up, the stone went to a small child. And the child died. Chayev. Again, because you have two things. One, your intention was to kill, and number two, the action that you did was an action that could have killed somebody. It's chayev. Comes along Rab Shimon, and Rab Shimon would say, "Afilin iskav lahar potter." Even if your intention was to kill this person, Reuven, and you ended up killing Shimon, you're exempt. And basically, it would seem that Rab Shimon would argue on the last part of the Mishnah, where your intention was to kill the adult person, and the Ritzayach ended up killing the katan, the minor. So Rab Shimon, the Chachamim said Yechayiv, Rab Shimon would say Yapata. But the Gemara wants to say even further. Rab Shimon Ahai. Where's Rab Shimon arguing? Ilema Seifa on the end of the Mishnah, like I just pointed out. Then it should say Rab Shimon Poitim Abayale. Rab Shimon just potters. It seems that Rab Shimon is making a brand new statement, so he must be referring to a different part of the Mishnah. So the answer is yes, even though Rab Shimon would argue on the end of the Mishnah, but he's also referring to argue on the beginning of the Mishnah, Ela Reisha. Because right away you see the Chachamim's opinion in the beginning of the Mishnah, where the Mishnah said, "Niskaven laharages abehem v'harages adam, l'goy v'harages Israel, l'nefolim v'harages ben kayama." All these situations where your intention was to do something that you're not chayev misa for. For example, he was going to kill an animal, or kill a goy, or kill a nefil, but he ended up killing a regular Jew. So then you potter, because your intention was to kill something that was not chayiv misa for. But from that inference, you can say that the opinion of the Chachamim is that if you intended to kill Reuven and you ended up killing Shimon, you would be liable. And that's very important. The Chachamim's opinion is that if you intended to kill Reuven and you ended up killing Shimon, you are liable. Reb Shimon says, if you intended to kill one person and he killed somebody else, the Ritzayach is potter, he's exempt. And that is Reb Shimon going on, that even in the beginning, on the diak of the Mishnah, where you can see the opinion of the Chachamim, Reb Shimon is already arguing. Now, the Gemara wants to know something more about Reb Shimon's opinion. Pshita, it is very simple. Ko v'rivim v'Shimon. There was Reuven and Shimon in front of him. V'amar, and the person said, "Ana l'Reuven kamikaven." I want to kill Reuven. L'Shimon loy kamikavna, and I don't want to kill Shimon. And he ended up killing Shimon. Hainu peluktayu. That was the machlokes between the Chachamim who say you're liable. Reb Shimon says you're potter. But Amar l'chad minayhu mahu. He says I want to kill one of them. He didn't specify Reuven or Shimon. The question is, would Rabbi Shimon disagree in this case and hold your potter, or would Rabbi Shimon agree that you'll be chayav? Because he said one of them. He didn't say, I'm going to kill Reuven. Iname, Kisava Reuven and Imsa Shimon Mayu. He saw a person walking on the street. He says, this must be Reuven. I'm going to kill him. And it turns out to be Shimon. Would Rabbi Shimon hold your liable or not? Tashma, come in here. The Tanya, we learned in the Baraisa, Shimon Oimer, Rabbi Shimon says, Ad sheyoyma leploinam yani miskavein. Rabbi Shimon says, a ritzeach is not a ritzeach until he says, for this person, I'm intending to kill. So therefore, when he says to one of them, I intend to kill, he didn't designate one person he's going to kill. And therefore, he's not a ritzeach, according to Rabbi Shimon. And the same idea, if he thought it was Reuven, it turns out to Shimon, that's not the person, leploini, that I was niskavein. I have intent to kill this person. That didn't turn out to be that person. So my Talmud Rab Shimon, why does Rab Shimon have this narrow view of murder that you have to really specify and designate the person that you're going to kill and actually follow through and kill that person? Amakra, because the pasuk says, "V'arav loy v'kam loy." He strategized against him and then stood up against him to kill. Ad shiskaven loy, until you have to intend to kill the person that you're designating. So that's the way Rab Shimon views the pasuk. Says the Gemara, Rabbanan, what did Rabbanan do with that pasuk? V'arav loy means you have to intend to kill. You have to have really designate an intention to kill a specific person. So Rabbanan is going to say, Amrei debei Rabbi Yanai, the Rabbanan say that pasuk excludes the following case. Prat lezorik Evan legoy. You threw a stone into a crowd. There was a crowd of people, and a person threw a stone into the crowd, which would have killed somebody, and it did. So then you're exempt. Now, so the Gemara wants to understand why are you exempt and what's the scenario? Hey Chedami, it's a group of 10 people, and there was 9 goyim and 1 Jew amongst them. So certainly you're exempt. I don't need a pasuk to tell me that you're exempt, that the Ritzeach is exempt. Tepik let us say, because the Ruba goyim, because there is mostly goyim, so therefore, you of course not considered a Ritzeach, because there was most of the 90% of the time you would have hit a guy. So that's why you're exempt. So you could always say that my intention was to kill a guy. So we can't hold him responsible. Even if you want to say Palga and Palga, there were 5 goyim and 5 yidden, suffix nefashis lahaka. It's still a suffix of nefashis, because why do I need a pasuk to pater him? He could have said easily, when there's 50-50 chance, I wanted to hit only the goyim. I hit a Jew, I'm sorry. And we have a pasuk, b'hitzilu eida. We accept any excuse to get a person off the hook from being responsible, especially when it comes to capital punishment. Like tzrika, the ika tishi Yisrael v'goyachad. He threw it into a group of people where there was 9 Jews standing and 1 goy. So if you look at it, 90% he's going to hit a Jew. The goy kavua, but since the goy is part of that group and the group is stationary, we view that group, it's counterintuitive. In other words, it's just a gzeres akasav. We view that group as v'chol kavua kamechsa mechsadami. We view that group containing 9 Jews and 1 goy as if it's 50% goyim and 50% Jews. That's the gzeres akasav. And since it's 50-50, then we back to square one. The guy gets out of it, because he could always say that since it's 50-50, I meant to hit the goy, not the Jew. And that's the concept of kavua kamechza mechzadami. It comes up when a person finds 9 kosher butcher shops and 1 treifa butcher shop, and he went in to one of them and bought a piece of meat, and doesn't know if he went into the kosher butcher shops, which is the majority, or he went to that 1 treifa butcher shop. So if you look at statistics, probably he bought a kosher piece of meat. He probably went into the one of the 9 stores. But since the Torah gives a gzeres akasav that in such a situation, since you're going towards the mixture is viewed as a 50-50. So it's only like 50% kosher butcher stores, and we view it as 50% treif butcher stores, so it's a 50-50. You don't have a rive, you can't eat that piece of meat. Now the Gemara continues and discussing, since this is a machlokes, the scenario that there's a story in the Chumash that talks about two people had a fight, and the wife, let's say, of one of the people was standing there pregnant, and the perpetrator wanted to hit the guy, and he ended up hitting the wife, the pregnant wife. So the Torah says it depends. If he just caused the wife to miscarry, then he has to pay for the embryos, the nevelados. But if he actually killed the wife, the Torah says, "V'nusata nefesh tachas nefesh." You have to take a life for a life. So, what does that mean? So, Bishlam Rabbanon, the Amin Iskavan Laharagazeh, Chayev, that if you intended to kill Reuven and you killed Shimon, you're still liable. The Ksiv, now that the pasuk says two people were arguing, the Nakfu Ishahara, and one of them took a fatal blow to a pregnant woman, and he killed her, who was probably standing there defending her husband. It was a death blow that he gave her. The Ksiv in Masin, if there was a tragedy and the woman died, the guy has to pay for his life. In other words, since he intended to kill, he wanted to kill the guy who was fighting for him, and he killed his wife, so he's still considered a murderer. Nefesh tachas nefesh. We take a soul for a soul. El Rab Shimon, in this case, you'll be potter. How do they translate that he has to pay for it with his life? How do you explain that? According to Rab Shimon, he should be potter. He wanted to kill the person that was fighting with him. He didn't want to kill the wife. Answers the Gemara, Mamoin, Ukud the Rebbe. Rab Shimon will hold that all he has to do is pay a little money. He pays the value of the woman. The Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, Rebbe agreed with Rab Shimon. He pays for the value of that pregnant woman, but he doesn't have, he's not a Ritzeach that has to give up his life. How do you know it means that he pays for it? He pays money. Maybe it means he has to give up his life. You have to give him the capital punishment because he's a Ritzeach. Answers the Gemara, Nema Nesina Lamato. It says this word, Nesata Nefesh Tachna. He has to give his life for this life that he took. The Nemra, but it also says, we go to Amid Beis, Nesina Lamano, the word Nesina, that if there was no tragedy, that he has to pay, he has to pay the value that Bezdin appraises him, the assessment. Ma'alahalan, just that the word Nesina and the above translation means paying money. Afkan, in this situation, Mamoin, so he pays money. So the Rebbe and Rab Shimon both hold of the same thing, that he doesn't he doesn't get killed because he killed the pregnant woman. All he has to do is pay the value of the pregnant woman. Comes along Amar Rava, and Rava says like this: Hi Tana de Beicheskia Mapke mid Rebbe, Mapke mid Rabbanim. There's a third opinion over here, which is the Beicheskia, which is not like Rebbe, not like Rabbanan. According to Rabbanan, you get Misa for killing the pregnant woman, even though your intention was to kill the man. And according to Rebbe and Reb Shimon, you wouldn't get Misa, but you would have to pay for the woman, the value of the woman. The Tani Bey Rab Cheskia agrees with Rab Shimon that he's not a Retzeach because he didn't intend to kill the pregnant woman, but he also does not have to pay for that money. He doesn't have to pay even the value of that woman. So how did they learn it? So the Gemara Tanabei Reb Cheskia had this hekish, this juxtaposition. The pasuk says Make Adam, Make Behema. The Torah juxtaposes that if you kill an animal, you have to pay for it. You damaged an animal. And if you kill a human being, then you're a murderer and you get killed. So we darshan like this: Ma Make Behema, just like when you kill an animal. Doesn't matter if you did it by mistake or on purpose. Bein miskaven with intention, she'ena miskaven with no intention. Bein derech yirida, whether you fell on the animal, or l'derech aliyah, or you jumped and hit the animal and somehow killed it. Lepaitri b'marmen. The Torah doesn't say you're exempt from money. If you did it in a funny way, you're always going to have to pay, because if a human being that damages an animal always has to pay, because there's no excuse, oh, I did it by mistake. Not when it comes to damages. But af maka adam, so also when a human being kills another human being, like tachlik by bein shoygig lemezit, there's no difference if he did it by mistake or by accident or on purpose. Bein miskaven, whether he had intention, l'shein miskaven, or he did not have intention. Bein derech yirida l'derech aliva l'chayve mammon, ela patri mammon. It doesn't matter if he did it in a downward motion or an upward motion. He's always going. We're not going to require him to pay. He's always going to be exempt from paying. Because if he's getting the death penalty or he's going to gullus because he did it by mistake, so then he's not going to get. He's not going to have to be required to pay for it. He's being punished enough. And derech yirid and derech yaliyah means sometimes you could kill somebody by accident and you don't go to gullus, because if you jumped up onto somebody on the way up, you killed somebody. So then you're not, you don't have the requirements to go to gullus. Only if you fell off a ladder and landed on somebody, then you go to gullus. But all this is that you're going to go to gullus, or if you did it on purpose, you get killed. But you'll always be exempt from money. Now, the Gemara just explains, Ma she'einu miskaven. What did Rab Chizki mean? That if you don't have intention, you're always going to be exempt from money. If you had no intention at all, you didn't mean to kill somebody. That's by accident. So we already said, by accident, you don't pay money. El pshita, what it meant to say is, you had no intention to kill this person, only somebody else. So you did do a killing, and you did it with the intention, but you got the wrong person. It says that you're not required to pay money, rather the opposite. It says you're exempt from paying money. Now, first of all, if if you would have killed that person, if he's considered a Ritzeach, of course, why do we have to have a pasuk that you're exempt from paying money? You're getting the capital punishment. We know once you get the capital punishment, there are no other civil penalties. He's not getting the capital punishment, and that's the Talmud Bavli new opinion that niskaven lahareg la bakatalu. You don't get the death penalty like Rab Shimon, and you also don't have to pay for the value of the woman. You don't have to pay her value, and that sums up the sugya. That there are three opinions. And the three opinions are, Chacham says, if you wanted to kill Reuven and you killed Shimon, you are liable. According to Shimon, you're not liable, but you would still have to pay money as damages. And according to Talmud Bavli, you won't get the death penalty, and you're also not liable for monetary damages. Comes along the Mishnah, and we'll do the Mishnah, and then we'll stop. Reitzeach shenisara b'cheim. You have a murderer. A murderer gets the sword penalty, right? He gets the sayef, but he got mixed up with other people, and who are these other people? We don't know. The Mishnah didn't say. So then we're going to say kulan peturin. Then everybody is pater from the death penalty, because you don't want to kill an innocent person. So if we know that one of them is the reitzeach, we just don't know which one of them is, because he got mixed up. Then let's say they paskin that he's a Ritzeach and he just mingled into the crowd and they can't identify him. You don't kill anybody. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Kainsen ice on the kippah." You bring him into a chamber and you starve them to death. Now, what does that mean? You starve all these innocent people to death. So we're going to learn in the Gemara. Reb Shimon is talking about a totally different case, where a shar haniskal, a shar that you're supposed to kill because it killed another human being, got mixed up with other oxen. Then you bring all the oxen into a pen and you starve them basically, and that's it. And they're asr bahana. Then the Mishnah says like this: Kol chayave misas nisarbiv zeh nisdoinim bekala. You have chayve misas that get mixed up with each other. Let's say a guy who is mechal Shabbos with a reitzeach, or a bas koyin with a reitzeach. So we always give the easier death penalty, because within the severe death penalty, he always was included he was included in the lighter death penalty. So if you have a bunch of people who are high of the death penalty and they got mixed up with each other, you don't know who to give what, you always give them all the lighter death penalty. That's why it's important to know what is the most lighter way to die, the easier way to die. So when you compare Haniskolim, those that are supposed to get the stoning death, the Hanis bin Israfin, those that were get the burning death, even though they got mixed up, and Roiv, most of them are Niskalim, supposed to get the stoning death. Rab Shimon says, Nidoinim Beskila, they get the stoning death. Shasreifa Chamura. Sreifa is the more severe death. So Sreifa is more severe than Skila. Chacham says, Nidoinim Sreifa, we give them everybody Sreifa. Shaskila Chamura. Skila is more Chamer. So it's a very it's machlekes. What is the more severe death in the Torah? Either it's skila like the Chachamim or sreifa like Rab Shimon. Omelam Rab Shimon said, "I'll prove you that sreifa is worse. Ilu lahaisu sreifa chamura. If sreifa was not the worst death penalty, lo nitla bas koyin shezinsa. We know a bas Yisrael that's an arusa, right? And she did znus, she gets skila. And a bas kohen that's an arusa that did znus, according to Rab Shimon's understanding, she gets sreifa. So the Torah wanted to make it more severe for a bas kohen, that a normal bas Yisrael who's a rusa that did znus gets skila. She's going to get sreifa. So we see in the Torah that sreifa is more severe. Amrulai, so they answered to Rab Shimon, I'll prove you that skila is the worst. If skila was not the worst, the Torah wouldn't prescribe it to the two possible worst averos the person could do. Lam gadev, someone who blesses Hashem, so to speak, means the opposite. Those that somebody who worships idols gets skila. So we see skila is the worst, much worse than the sreifa. Let's say you get a mixture of haneharogim v'nechnochim, and this concludes the Mishnah. Neharogim means those that are supposed to get the knife penalty, and somebody is supposed to get the choking penalty. And so you don't know which is the lighter death penalty. If they two groups got mixed up, what are you going to give them? The lighter death penalty. So what is the lighter death penalty? Either is it the knife or is it choking? Rab Shimon Oimer B'Sayif, you give them the knife penalty, because that's lighter. The Chachamim Oimer Chenek. Chenek is the lightest. So according to Chachamim, Chenek, then comes Sayif, then comes Sreifa, and then comes Skila. And according to Rab Shimon, Sreifa, Skila, Sayif, and then Chenek, and then Sayif. So that's the order, and we'll learn more about that going in the Gemaras. Okay, a good Nacht and a good Shabbos.